Another day, another story. The 39th story. Why have you forsaken me? Psalm chapter 22 verses 1 to 21. This psalm is written by David. Verse 1 begins with a familiar and well-known phrase. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? Yes, that's right. These are the words that Jesus cried out when he was hanging on the cross. He shouted loudly, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? In this sense, David is not only a poet but also a prophet. David had difficult times in his life where he felt abandoned by God. He thought that God was far away and not listening to his cries. He cried out during the day and was not silent at night, but God did not answer him. People treated him like an insect and insulted and mocked him. When David was being chased by Saul, he told his friend Jonathan, "There is only one step between me and death." David lived in such a precarious situation that anything could happen at any moment. A man named Nabal, who lived in Carmel, insulted David by treating him like a runaway servant when he fled from his owner. When David fled from Saul's pursuit and went into exile in Philistine, the Philistine leaders watched his every move with suspicion. After Saul's death, David became the king of Judah and later the king of Israel. However, this does not mean that his troubles were over. He committed the wicked deed of killing loyal Uriah and taking his wife Bathsheba as his own. He groaned when he could not restrain himself, wasting away like a parched field during a summer drought. However, when he repented, God did not disregard his contrite and remorseful heart. God forgave him of his sin. But David's work gave the enemy of the Lord a great deal of slander. The child, that Uriah's wife gave birth to David, died of severe illness. Prince Ammon rapes Princess Damal, and Damal's brother Absalom assassinates Ammon. Absalom fled to Jesul, where his mother's family is, and after returning, he rallied his forces to cause rebellion. David escaped. A man named Shimei, son of Jerah of Benjamin, threw stones at David, and told him to go away. Psalm chapter 3 is a poem, written by David, when he avoided his son Absalom, saying, Lord, how many enemies I have. There are many people, who stand up and hit me, he says. There were many hardships in David's life, but it cannot be compared to the hardships Jesus suffered. David's suffering is partly due to other people's envy, but partly due to his sins and faults. But Jesus is a blameless and innocent holy man, who has carried our burden instead, and suffered to save us. We, the sinners, are abandoned by God. And Jesus, the Son of the Holy God, are abandoned by God, on a different level. Jesus is the Son of God, who has always lived in close companionship with his Father. Jesus even said that what you do is not by yourself, but by the presence of the Father in Jesus. Jesus has always been the joy of God's. Jesus was abandoned by the Father, who loved him, so how much pain and pain would it be? Verse 7 to 8. All who look at me, laugh at me, wriggling their lips and shaking their heads. When people saw Jesus on the cross, they slandered and mocked him. Verse 12 to 18 reminds us of Jesus' suffering. Many bulls surrounded me, and the mighty ox of Bashan surrounded me, and his mouth opened to me like a lion crying out in tears. I was poured out like water, all my bones were broken. My heart melted in me like wax, my strength was like a piece of a dry vessel, and my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. The Lord has put me in the dust of death again. The dogs surrounded me, and the evil crowd surrounded me and stabbed my limbs. Can I count all my bones? They look at me with their eyes on me, share my coat, and draw lots for my underwear. God saved David from the mouth of the lion and from the horns of the bison. God resurrected Jesus from the dead and gave him a distinguished name over all names. Jesus put up with the cross for the pleasure ahead of him, and he did not mind his shame, but sat in the nail of God's throne. Jesus suffered a lot to save us and suffered from being abandoned by the Father of God, whom he loved. And yet you prayed for criminals. Because of Jesus' grace and prayer, I came to live, and I am here today. We must always think of the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God, and live in gratitude and praise. Thanks for watching.